thank you all for coming. And I'm going to be in like Mary mode of teaching. So I'll try to remember my manners. So here's my disclaimer, right? We're going to do this little disclaimer thing that these are suggestions only. This is not to be considered medical advice or endorsement of any product. And it's not meant to violate any law in any country in which you reside. Please consult your medical doctor or practitioner if you are desiring to start any new diet, supplements, or exercise. So, again, this is informative. This is to help you start to learn how to navigate why these micronutrients matter to you. So a couple things before we even go into this. Micronutrients, we're only talking right now about vitamins and minerals. And the chemicals, they're chemicals and substances needed in trace amounts for proper human development. Now, for us to get through this in a good way, I need you to understand who decided this is important in the first place. So our Food and Drug Administration, it's called the FDA, back in the 1920s, was called the Bureau of Chemistry, right? So it went along this little progression from the Bureau of Chemistry to the Food and Agricultural and Insecticide Bureau to the Food and Drug Administration. So the Food and Drug Administration does not regulate the vitamins and the supplements. So it's not like somebody's got your back saying, oh, this is a good vitamin or this is a good supplement. People do have your back, but it's not necessarily the FDA, and you can't just trust all the products that are on the market. So what the FDA does is the FDA puts food and enrichment and fortification vitamins in our food supply. So for those of you that don't understand enrichment or fortification, enrichment is when we processed a food, and in that processing, it got depleted of certain vitamins and nutrients. And then those vitamins and nutrients we put back in afterwards. Maybe okay, maybe not. Depends on your genetics. So sometimes the vitamins and minerals that they're putting back in, the vitamins especially, are not the original form. So that's enrichment. So one of the, like you'll see it a lot, enriched rice, enriched wheat. Stuff that's been so processed that it got depleted, and then we just put things back inside of it. So we enriched it. We made it more nutrient dense. Fortification is when we put a vitamin or a mineral in something that originally it was never in. So the biggest one that most people know is milk, right? We enrich it with vitamin D to hopefully complement the calcium absorption, hopefully. Does it really work? You know, it's kind of, you know, as we go deeper into how these vitamins and minerals work together or compete with each other, you have to understand this is very experiential. So in the 1920s, we developed some things, and then we changed them in the 1940s, and then we changed them again in the 1950s, and now it's 2021, and you know the big up for renegotiation or looking to see if the recommended intake is enough is vitamin D. So we hear a lot about vitamin D. So again, the FDA, here's a good Food and Drug Administration, they do not make the vitamins and supplements, okay? They are in charge of enriching and fortifying our food supply. Now, the RDA, recommended daily allowance, and then there's something called the recommended daily intake of these substances. So again, who invented this stuff? The chemists that have been tracking these things through what's in our food, how the body works, and basically they look at the diseases that come and how do we prevent those diseases. So Ryan, I need you to put yourself on mute. The recommended daily intake, that is set by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. So they're the ones that are saying, okay, humans should have X amount of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin B, whatever. These original numbers were set in 1943, after World War II. So you gotta know, these original numbers were set a long, long time ago. And now every 5, 10, 15 years, they look at what's been happening with the human population, and then they reset those numbers. So you gotta know, like, it's not all hard and fast, this is the way it is. Even our chemists and our scientists that are studying this are looking at, okay, what might have gone wrong, what needs to be better, why did we even start supplementing or enriching and fortifying our foods in the first place? Well, they realized, people that were low in vitamin D were getting rickets. People that were, low in B9 or folate, the babies were getting some spinal bifida. It was causing problems with the babies in utero. So there were reasons why we began to enrich and fortify things. The very first one was in 1920, iodine in our salt, right? Because they wanted to prevent goiters. And, that's part of why we're doing it. So it's not a bad thing, but we got to be careful about what we're consuming because ultimately you're in charge of your body. Now, the RDA is the recommended daily allowance. That's based off of the RDI, which is the recommended daily intake. And that is established by the Food and Nutrition Board of the Institute of Medicine. So again, now you're having people that are looking at medicine, looking at doctors, looking at chemicals, and they're saying, okay, this is what the average human should be taking. So I'm telling you all this because the DRI, the Dietary Reference Intake, is established by the Institute of Medicine. If you want to know about this, you're going to go to nal.usda.gov. So that is where you're going to find the current DRI in case you want to know for your age range or your child's age range or your elderly grandmother's age range. Basically, they're going to have like infant ages. They're going to have, children or youth. And then basically after 18 to about 60, we're going to be hanging out in the same DRI. It's going to be different for males and females, especially in some certain nutrients. Let's see. And then, but that's the place that you're going to go for current information. So nal.usda.gov. I'll write that on the board because it actually gets nal.usda.gov. Because I'm not going to be telling you all of the information. I'm not going to be telling you the DRI for everything. We have way more to cover than that. So again, why were these things established in the first place? In 1943, here's the quote: providing standards to give as a goal for good nutrition and investigate issues of nutrition that might affect national defense. So we wanted a healthy populace. We understand, well, all the information that I'm getting, all of this, unless I say otherwise, came from this book. This is the Sports Nutrition 5th edition, Practical Applications. This is one of the books that I had to use for getting my certification in sports nutrition. It's fantastic because it really explains the nitty gritty of what these vitamins do instead of, oh, you just need this, this, and this. All right. So what would affect, okay, so say the DRI is a certain amount for the general populace, the daily required or recommended intake. So what would affect that, and maybe you would need a different intake, would be a certain health circumstance or disease. So what does that mean? That means if somebody has a normal intake of sodium at 1,500 milligrams, and yet they have a condition called POTS, where they have super, super, super low blood pressure, they might have to have a really high intake of sodium, well beyond the average. But if somebody has hypertension and high blood pressure, and the normal intake is 1,500 milligrams, they might be suggested to stay between 800 and 1,000 milligrams. So there are reasons why you need to know about you for your own vitamin and mineral needs. Each person truly is different. So health or disease, activity. I have athletes that I work with that can sweat out 9 pounds in a 3-hour session of water. You are losing a lot of your minerals, a lot of your body salts, you're using a lot of calcium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, just for your muscle contractions. So a top level athlete, or even somebody who's a shitty athlete but trains for hours at a time, might need a lot more electrolyte replenishment of certain vitamins and minerals than somebody who doesn't exercise at all or doesn't sweat much. Hot yoga teacher instructors. I've had several of those as clients who oftentimes come to me and say they no longer control their own body temperature regulation. That's a big deal. But sometimes when you sweat too much, you're using a little bit too much of your body's micronutrients. So low calorie. A lot of people come to me and have done insane diets, 500 calories a day for 40, 50 days at a time, 800 calories a day. Maybe some days, in the anorexics, we'll talk about eating disorders later. Sometimes they come to me and it's a good day if they got 300 calories in. So that could be another reason why you might need more of a certain micronutrient, because you're not actually ingesting it through food. Yes, I'm an advocate for food first. High quality, nutrient dense, real foods. But in certain conditions, we need to have more vitamin and mineral supplementation. Malabsorption. A lot of people that have small intestinal bacterial, they call it SIBO, overgrowth. Some people that have celiac have compromised absorption. Some people that have a genetic morphism, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, might have compromised absorption. And then the availability of the foods available. Say you truly are somebody who lives where, there's not fresh foods, or you can't afford fresh foods, or you have a very limited diet because it's only what you're given, then a multivitamin or mineral might be important. So these are reasons why if you look at the daily recommended intakes, you might be different. And this is especially for the people that are athletes or bodybuilders. So, or are trying to rebuild the body after health. I've trained under 3 different IFBB pros for weightlifting, bodybuilding competitions. Every single one of them. First day of the plan, they'll tell you get on a multi-mineral and a multivitamin supplement in order for all of your body processes to be able to not only metabolize food, but then to build tissues necessary. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So, all right, diet. We're just going to say diet is where I want you to get the predominant sources of these vitamins and minerals. But I know some of you And I know some of you come to me on very low diets, whether it's for weight cutting for competitions or it's, for aesthetic reasons. And for people that are going to stick to a very low calorie, that might be a reality for supplementing. So we're going to talk about factors that affect nutrient absorption. So say you're getting the nutrients through food. Say you're actually getting them. Well, what could affect your body actually absorbing them? So, you eat the apple, but, your body's not delivering exactly the apple to the whole system. Your body's got to break it down, and then it has to get delivered. So, number one, the bioavailability of a food. And in a minute, we're going to talk about iron. So, iron is one of the trace minerals. And iron is one that a lot of vegans and vegetarians really have to pay attention to, because non-heme iron is actually less bioavailable than heme iron. So a lot of times that can affect your energy levels because the iron is helping carry the oxygen to the tissues. So bioavailability, are you actually eating sources that your body can deliver to your cells? Medications. Certain medications can absolutely affect if you're absorbing. Some people will be told if they're on a blood thinner, then you don't want to take a lot of vitamin K because of the clotting. So, certain foods taken with other foods will compromise absorption. And we're going to talk about those specifically in a little bit. How much you're moving. So if you are a pro athlete and you're running and you're running and you're running and you're cramping and you're having issues and you're sore all the time, you might not be getting enough. Where if you're somebody who's not moving at all and you're not using your muscles, we don't want to give you too much of a vitamin, like somebody who's been laying in bed for 3 months in a coma, and somebody who's been running and training for a triathlon every day for 3 months. They're going to have different needs. It just is. It doesn't matter if they're the same age. It doesn't matter if they're the same sex. So these things are actual factors for absorption. Health factors, genetics and disease, and your food nutrient overall intake. So AKA your diet. If you work with me, I don't take out fat, I don't take out vegetables, I don't take out fruit, I don't take out meat, I don't take out protein. I usually recommend a multivitamin because I want to cover all our bases. If somebody just comes to me and says, well, I'm on a 2,000 calorie diet, Mary, I feel like shit. And then I look at their diet and 1,800 of those calories is pop, I said, well, no wonder, right? So we're looking for nutrient-dense foods. Now, I'm going to stop here for just a second, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions. So this is where we can do the chat thing. I'll look at the chat box, or AJ put in the chat box for everybody the link to where to find the DRIs. Thank you, AJ. And if there's no questions, before I get into like the specifics, because I'm super excited about the specifics of each vitamin and mineral, I want to talk about, for you to know how to get the tests that you can find out where you're at right now so that you can start tracking your own baseline. So number one, for bone density, a lot of these minerals are extremely stable. A lot of the minerals help with bone formation. And a lot of them are regulated in the blood. And so bone density, they have a strong, integrable structure at the very core of our being is really important all the way through life. So the DEXA scan, DEXA scan. So it's usually about 60 to 75 bucks at a local university that has some kind of dietetics or nutrition program, or usually any university that is big in athletics, will have this kind of service. And you lay on a table, they're going to take an x-ray over your body, and it's going to give you to 98% accuracy your bone density, your lean mass, and your fat mass composition. So the bone density is extremely important because you can, right now, if you find out you're having osteoporosis, right now you can change your diet and start to make your bones stronger. If you find out that you're osteopenic, which just means that your bones are a little weaker than they should be because during stages of your life, you didn't get the nutrients that were needed to knit them and make them strong. We can do something about that right now with our food and our diet, paying attention to the molecules we ingest. If you're somebody who breaks a lot of young men, I had a fighter, he was 6'7", and he'd break all the time, right? But he had these growth spurts when he was like 13, 14, and 15 that literally his body was not getting enough nutrients, not because anything was starving him, but he needed more to knit that together well. So bone density is huge. That's what you're going to find out with the DEXA, okay? A lot of times women after a certain age, they'll get a bone density scan at a hospital too, but a lot of times as women, they're not going to allow us that to be covered by insurance until we're 50 or 60 and they've decided this is where we should start looking at it. In my opinion, we should start looking at it at 18, 19, 20 to see where we're trending so that we never fall into, oh shit, I didn't pay attention to that for 6 or 7 years and now I'm in a compromised integrable structural position. All right, so the Nutra evaluation. The Nutra evaluation is something by a company called Genova Diagnostics. This is something you generally get from a naturopathic doctor or a sometimes a homeopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor. It's something you need to get a referral for. But a lot of times it's not covered by insurance, but this one's going to tell you if you're absorbing your B vitamins, your C, if you're absorbing or if you are low on your magnesium, your zinc, your minerals. It's going to give a lot more data too, but this one, why it's so important is because you don't just necessarily want to take a bunch of zinc if you don't need it. But if you need it, you want to take it. You don't necessarily want to hyperdose on B vitamins if you don't need them. But if you're in a dangerously low level, you absolutely want to take more than enough for a while until your body gets to what it needs for normal human development. And this isn't just looking good, ladies and gentlemen. This is your cell membranes. This is the sheaths that cover your nerves that make it so that when you think a thought, like, okay, hand punch, like your brain actually does it and does it fast. It's not like, oh, punch, oh shit, what, oh, and you can't execute the action. So your nerves are your power supply that's communicating so much in your hormones. So that's huge. The Nutra evaluation is really great because it's going to tell you what you're in good range, what you're in borderline range, and what you're in red range. And then you have the power to then supplement precisely. This thing changes lives. I see it again and again with people that get it done. Then there's something that your doctors can check. So any doctor nowadays is cool with this. If they say, well, I want my vitamin D level checked. So that, like I said, that's currently under investigation right now because we originally had the RDA set for X amount, and now they're considering doubling that amount. They're finding that more vitamin D is actually required, and possibly, this is Mary thought, this is not out of any book, but we can get vitamin D. It's the only one of the vitamins and minerals that we can synthesize purely through sunlight. But we aren't normal humans anymore. We're in cars, we're in houses, we're in buildings. Like before all of this, before we created all these little boxes that we're hanging out in, we were outside. In our body, whether it was a sunny day or a cloudy day or a rainy day or a snowy day, we're getting exposed to the sunlight. And perhaps now that's one of the reasons why our tissues aren't doing as well. Imagine a plant that we kept in a box and never exposed it to sunlight. For all you plant lovers, you can imagine that would make you cringe. And yet here we are on a little box. So the vitamin D3, your doctors will definitely check that for you because they're finding so many health issues are linked to low vitamin D3. And then there's one called the MTHFR genetic morphism. So this is where a lot of times, and I'm not going to go into it, but with the MTHFR, it's just one little snip with thousands of DNA SNPs. But they found that a lot of people that have these morphisms need certain B vitamins because it's an absorption issue and it's an energy issue. And the people that have the double negative with the MTHFR have to be very careful not to be ingesting a lot of the enriched and fortified B vitamins. So that's another thing we got to look at. Like for much of the population, for 50% of the population, the enrichment and fortification, fantastic. For 50% of us, not fantastic. So that's where we have to just be learning. Okay, if somebody comes to me low energy, Mary, I'm just low energy, I have no energy. Once we get to the B vitamins, you're going to see B vitamins are like the kingpin for coenzyme helping facilitate energy production. All right. The other thing that you can get is just a general CBC. I have people that are freaking, I don't know, millionaires, like in the tens of millions, and ridiculous. And I'll say, well, when's the last time you got some blood work done? Oh, like 10 years ago. That stuff doesn't matter. It matters. It does. So you start working with me. That's one of the first things I'm going to ask you is I want to see your real blood work. I don't just want to guess you. So your CBC is going to tell us that it's a complete blood count. That's going to tell us the size of your red blood cells. It's going to tell us the quantity of your red blood cells. It's going to tell us how your iron's doing. These things are really important for energy and for having an optimal energetic life. So, for anybody who has like a poo-poo idea about your Western doctor, that's a great place to start if you're not ready to jump onto alternative medicines or you don't understand functional medicine yet, or need to talk to somebody about, I don't understand about this DEXA thing. Just your general practitioner, you can find out a lot of information with a good CBC, and it's a standard test. It's called a complete blood count. All right. So, boom. All right, so I'm going to just say it one more time about the MTHFR. So if you have, that's one thing that I just, when I learned about that for me, that I had the double negative, I had such low energy in my late 20s, early 30s. My skin was literally falling apart. Like I could wipe it off my body. I was severely obese and I was starving to death. So get this, I was 100 pounds heavier, but physiologically, I was starving. So I'm obese and malnourished. And I was like, how the fuck does that happen? I didn't understand. Now I do. So in my gut, my small intestines were a lot of these B vitamins, D vitamins, K vitamins. A lot of these vitamins are absorbed. That part of my gut was severely compromised. And so the food was going in and going out. I was still able to store salt and fat, but I wasn't absorbing the nutrients that were helping hold my structures together. And I was falling apart, literally. I mean, at 30 years old, my doctor was like, Mary, you probably have about 2 weeks because your immune system is so weak. You're losing skin. We don't know how to help you. They literally told me to write my will and figure out who I was going to leave my children to. And that's when I started to understand. I came across an amazing doctor that helped me learn why these were important. Just in school, it wasn't important enough. I just had to learn some words and things. And that's what I'm hoping to give to you today is I'm going to take these and make them alive for you instead of just like, this is a vitamin, this is a mineral. All right, so before I go on, once again, any questions? So I know that I talk fast, and it's not going to slow down because now I'm going to start downloading with the information, but I'm going to touch on one more thing that really matters. And it's all of the kind of eating disorder and issues that come along with people in the athletic world. There's a lot more of them for just the general public, but I know the majority of you here are people that like to exercise and move and use energy. So number one, there's something called muscle dysmorphia or body dysmorphia. And that's when, you might be totally healthy, totally lean, but you can't see yourself in a good way. You always want to be a little leaner, or you want to see your abs a little more, or you don't want to go out in public because you don't feel like you look good enough. You will exercise compulsively, and you'll watch your diet. You'll avoid social activities just to be on your diet. Social physique anxiety for all you athletes out there, especially, and I know from being in the figure competition world, when I get on stage and I'm like buck 26, I'm totally jacked, look amazing that day. And then everybody gives you all these compliments and everybody thinks that's what you look like. Yeah, but no, you cut all your water and you've been dieting for a while and you've been exercising like crazy. You don't look like you do on stage every day, and then it messes you up because then you think, well, what are these people going to think of me once I gain 10 more pounds? There's a lot of female fighters and a lot of male fighters after they cut for a competition because they feel so good that day, and then, that 10, 15, 20 pounds comes right back once they put on the water and they get back to a regular diet. So that it creates anxiety. It creates true anxiety. Then there's anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, anorexia athletica. So this is where it's not a DSM-V certified anorexia, but around your periods of having to cut for weight competitions, you go to crazy extremes while you're overtraining, and it creates problems. There's the female athlete triad. So we're going to talk about that because it's dear to my heart being a female athlete, and a lot of my girls that come to me, it's the disordered eating, it's the extreme weight fluctuations that go along with it, menstrual irregularities, so they have lack of periods or menstrual irregularities, and then there's osteopenia or osteoporosis that comes along with it. So then they get the DEXA scan or the first bone scan, and they don't understand why their bones are weak. Well, we're going to talk about that when it comes to minerals in just a moment. So on that note, there is a lot of eating disorders. If you have one, if you don't know where to go, just message me. I'll help you get to where you need to go, or, an overeating anonymous group, or, there's lots of places to go to get help. If you're just like, okay, my eating disorder is now running my life and I need help. So if you're a man or a woman, it's equal, guys. Everybody gets it. You don't have to be a certain sex to have a strange issue around food that you might need help with, getting to a better place. So feel free to message me if you need help knowing more about that. So here we go. Now we're going to go to where to find good quality vitamins. You're going to look for ingredients that you don't understand, like fillers. You're going to look for the manufacturer info on the bottle. If you decide to purchase a vitamin, you're going to say, okay, I want to know its address. I want to know how to contact these people. I want to see a lot number. Those are important. Expiration dates. If there's just nothing on the bottle, I'd be leery. You can go to a good functional medicine doctor. And then for you athletes, I know I have at least 2 on here that are people that have to worry for their professional careers. If you guys, this is for the UFC specifically, but those are the symbols that are going to be on your products that you are safe to take. Basically, if you take a supplement and that symbol is not on the product, and somehow or another a banned substance got into that, that's on you. You gotta understand these things are made in a big factory. And in the factory, everything in this little area might be putting into the B vitamin. But over here, they're making some shit that's a little dicey and banned. And then something explodes, and then the molecules get in the air. And now that which was supposed to be over here now got into your B vitamin capsule or your B vitamin powder. And then you're taking it, you're like, but it was only B vitamins. But you didn't buy it from the place that was certified NSF or certified for you. So you can liken that to somebody who's celiac. Like, I can't have oats that are not certified gluten-free. All oats are gluten-free. But if they're made in a factory where they're also packaging wheat, and then a bag blows up, and then there's wheat molecules in the air, and then the wheat falls into my oats, now I have some gluten in there, and that's going to cause a problem in my intestines. So if you have a certain issue, you want to make sure you understand why these places are certified, and they go through the problem of getting certified and the financing and the trouble, because they are a standard of excellence or quality that you deserve, period. We all deserve it. So if you want to know what the top athletes do, then screenshot this page for a moment, or ask me for it, and I'll send it to you. You're going to get this link anyway. All right, so here we go. Now we are going to blow through, in the last 20 minutes, vitamins. Now, there are, what's cool about a vitamin? So vitamins contain carbon and hydrogen and other organic, so that makes them organic. Minerals do not contain carbon. So that is what's different. So vitamins are organic, and they must be consumed exogenously because your body cannot produce them, or your body cannot produce them in sufficient quantity to meet your needs. Now, vitamin D is the exception because we can synthesize that through the sunlight, or you get enough sunlight. I don't know. So it must be essential to at least one vital process in the body. Vital. Vita means life, and amine, they used to call it vitamins because they thought that they all contained nitrogen, which would mean it was an amino acid. But then they realized that it wasn't that. Years later, right, we're just figuring this out as we go, that not all vitamins contain nitrogen. So then they cut off the E and they called it vitamin. And I have a little, this is what I wrote. So like, here we go. In 1912, we believed that they all contained nitrogens. And then, oops, in 1920, we took off the E and just called them vitamins. So you're going to see a lot of this as we progress. We decided, oh shit, that's not really a vitamin. Oh, that one didn't really work. So you can't be like, oh, the FDA and the God of knowing everything. Really, you got to take it a step further. If you don't understand something, do your research. It's your body. Truly, we're here because we all care about our bodies, and we wouldn't be talking to me. All right. So, what else about vitamins? Water-soluble vitamins. So the ones we're going to talk about today are the B's, C, and choline is important enough for athletes. It's vitamin-like, but we're not going to talk too much about it. So the vitamin B's that we're going to talk about today are B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, and B12. And there's some missing numbers in there because through the years, they were like, oh yeah, that B8, that's not really a vitamin, doesn't qualify. Oh yeah, that B10 doesn't really qualify. There is a B10, there is a B13, there is a B17, there is a B20. I'll share a link with you in a minute. I'll write it on the board about what happened to all those B vitamins. Right? They're still called B vitamins, but they're not actually considered vitamins. All right. So here we go. The water-soluble vitamins. They easily dissolve in water, and they're transported easily by the blood. They are not stored in your body in large amounts, and they are excreted through urine. Because little storage occurs, regular intake is important. So again, for all intents and purposes, that's your B vitamins, your C vitamins, and we're going to talk about choline for athletes, because the one who recommended or asked for this specific class asked because she's an athlete. Now, the fat-soluble vitamins, here we go. Fat-soluble are the A, D, E, and K. So what does that mean? So they do not dissolve in water. If you ever put oil and water together, the oil's going to float up top. These aren't going to dissolve in water. So they require dietary fat for intestinal absorption and transport into bloodstream. So people that go on zero fat diets, like zero fat, that really stresses me out. Like anybody who's done the HCG diet, not a fan. Not a fan, not a fan. Because we need fat for certain absorption of certain vitamins. So they are stored in the body fat tissue and liver and other organs. So when we take them in excess, they can become toxic to the body. So this is where it's really good to know where you're at and know what each of these vitamins do, because then you can maybe start to look at, oh, maybe I'm taking too much of this, or maybe I'm not taking enough of this, or maybe I need to eat more of X, Y, or Z. All right, so we're going to start with the water-soluble vitamins. Now, I get super excited about this. I'm going to stand in front of the board now because I'm going to hold up my little piece of paper. So vitamin C, this is one of the water-soluble. I care so much. I've been known as the poster child for vitamin C. Now, it's a major antioxidant. What is an antioxidant? We're going to talk about this first. So free radicals. Free radicals are something that gets causes stress in our system. Actually, I have a sheet on exactly what they are, so I call them rogue molecules, right? So free radicals. This is why you care about antioxidants. So free radicals are not good. I call them rogue molecules, okay? So they are molecules with unpaired electrons that give molecules electric charge that makes them unstable. They react with other molecules in the body and change their structure and cause damage and stress. Okay, maybe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this is what they do. So here they are. There's this thing that doesn't belong in the body. It's like byproduct from some kind of metabolic function that your body is wanting to excrete, but if you don't excrete it fast enough, it's going to get in there and cause havoc. So they can react with genes inside of the nuclei of cells and cause genetic mutations that cause apparent cell growth, cancer, right? So they can cause problems. So vitamin E, it's a fat-soluble one. It's known as the anti-aging vitamin, but it is huge, huge, huge for antioxidant health. So all the athletes that work with me know damn well that I tell you, after you work out, after you blow a bunch of cellular energy, metabolic energy, I want you to take 500 milligrams of vitamin C post-workout and 400 international units of vitamin E post-workout, because they help scavenge those little rogue molecules that aren't doing your body any good. So vitamin C, good for the immune system. It's an all-tissue builder. Huge for the formation of collagen and connective tissue, tendons and ligaments for wound healing. Increases your iron absorption. So this is one when paired with iron, especially for you vegans, it helps with non-heme iron and get you to absorb. It becomes more bioavailable. It's protected against heart disease. And if you have too much, you're going to get diarrhea. So you're not going to die. You might get a little diarrhea. All right. So vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin. Now, we're going to talk about the vitamin Bs. There is an article out there, and AG's great. AG's like sharing files all left and right. Maybe he'll do this too. So it's by Family Naturopathic Clinic, a guy named Vance and it's called How Many B Vitamins Out There? So if you really want to know where all those missing B vitamins went to, So there's a B4, there's a B8, there's a B10, there's a B11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20. They no longer fit the official definition of a vitamin. So I printed out the article because it's pretty cool. And he talks about, the basics of all the B vitamins, and lays out a lot. This I didn't get from the book, but you could. It's Val, VAL, CREMANARU, and his business is Family Naturopathic Clinic, and the article is How Many B Vitamins Out There. So that's a great article, but again, everything I'm telling you is from that book. So here we go. We're going to go right now and talk about B1. So we are on the water-soluble vitamins. B1, energy production, healthy nervous system. It's also known as thiamine, aerobic energy production, conversion of glycogen for energy, catabolism of branched-chain amino acids, which means it's going to help with protein synthesis. Low thiamine equals low endurance for athletes, and it's absorbed in the small intestines. So again, some of you have come to me and you're like, I got no energy and I got SIBO. Okay, B vitamins. You're going to hear it again and again. B vitamins. So B1. B2, riboflavin. So absorbed in small intestine, aerobic energy production at rest and during exercise. Deficiency, when you have deficiency, you have bright red lips, you'll see them. They'll be like, the lips are the not bright red color. Cracks in the corner of their mouth, inflamed tongue, poor performance. So I put some of the foods in here. So mushrooms, eggs, liver, almonds, eggs. And that's the other thing. You can always be like, wow, what foods have these vitamins? It's great, right? Like Google's cool. It's going to tell you some good stuff. B3, niacin. A lot of people know about the niacin flush when they take a certain B vitamin complex and they feel like their skin's crawling, or they get flushed really quick, or they feel like really hot and they're just like really uncomfortable. It's called a niacin flush, but it's super good for mitochondria, right? So it's energy production, mitochondrial metabolism, absorption in the small intestines and in the stomach. So this is where this B vitamin helps with aerobic and anaerobic energy functions. So long distance runners, lifters, all athletes, these are great to have. So you get these through diet, but they can also be gotten through tryptophan. The amino acid tryptophan can help to produce more B vitamin 3 in the body. A low vitamin B3, the disease that's associated with it is pellagra. And with pellagra, you get the 3 Ds, dementia, diarrhea, and dermatitis. So your body starts breaking down until the 4th D of death. So again, this one's been studied quite a bit. A lot of these B vitamins have been being studied since the 1940s. And like, oh, these are important for human energy production. And wow, if we want to have a strong United States of America and a strong national defense system, maybe we want strong people. So take your B vitamins or eat your B vitamins. B5, pantothenic acid, food metabolism, hormone and cholesterol production. All of your hormones are made from cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a bad thing. Too much of the wrong kind of cholesterol is the bad thing. All right. B6, absorbed in the small intestine, converting the liver to peroxidyl phosphate. I'm reading this backwards. All right, 100 plus enzyme and coenzyme functions. B6 is super important. Breakdown of glycogen for energy, synthesis of amino acids, conversion of tryptophan to niacin, formation of neurotransmitters. So for motor movement. So think about this, athletes. You want to move fast, you want your B vitamins. Production of red blood cells, huge. Production of white blood cells for immune function. So people with low B6, low B9, and low B12 have increased risk of heart disease. So get that. So B6, B9, and B12 are the 3 major B vitamins that are affected with your absorption if you have those MTHFR genetic morphisms. I would literally probably be dead right now if I didn't find that out. I'm somebody that has to inject B12 3 times a week because of my absorption problems. No shit. I have prescriptions since 2009. So that's what a big deal it is to find out if you have a B vitamin issue and you don't feel like you have like ample energy for a human your age. All right, B7. Woo. B7, biotin. Okay, protein and carbohydrate metabolism, production of hormone and cholesterol. We want our hormones to be good through all stages of life. B9, folate. I really want you guys to know that if you do have the MTHFR, folate in the form of L-methyl tetrahydrofolate is the one you're looking for. You're not looking for the one they call folic acid. Folic acid is the synthetic version. It can sometimes cause an issue. So this is like a little just to pay attention to. So folic acid is the synthetic version, supplemented for spinal bifida. Again, I refuse to believe that our FDA was trying to harm us by enriching. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that, you know, sometimes even the best intentions go wrong. And, you know, they didn't know until all these genetic testings came out with actual data that some of the bees they were putting in the enriched foods, in the fortified foods, were good for some of the people. So what's cool about B9 is it helps with DNA synthesis. It's super important for having a baby. Cell division, fetal growth and development, maturation of red blood cells, repair of tissues. Adequate folate prevents megablastic anemia, and it's good for cardiovascular health. So that's one circumstance again. When do they tell you? If you've never been on a multivitamin before, if you're a female and you get pregnant, you're going to get told, get out of prenatal, right? Because now you're growing another organism. It's important. All right, we're killing it. Okay, what do I got? 9 minutes left, Steve? I have 3 minutes? Oh, man, I'm messed up. Yeah, 11:57. All right, that was my deal. I said I'd get through as many as I could. So we will close at noon. But, so B12, we're going to go through B12, and then, actually, I'm not. So you're going to have to look at B12 all by yourself, and I'm going to talk about the minerals, because this is super important, and I'm going to keep recording after you guys all leave, so whoever wants to stay can stay, because I'm going to get through the minerals for anybody who wants to watch it later. So here we go. The fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K, and you can look up all this stuff yourself. But the minerals, there's 2 major categories. Major minerals, you need more than 100 milligrams a day: calcium, sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphorus, magnesium, and sulfur. And the minor minerals are considered the trace minerals, less than 100 milligrams per day: iron, zinc, copper, selenium, iodine, fluoride, molybdenum, and manganese. Okay? The ones I want to talk about more than anything for my athletes are the electrolytes. Okay? So the electrolytes, positive or negative charged ions in the body. Think of a battery. The body uses the electrolytes to establish ionically charged gradients across membranes in excitable tissue, such as muscles and nerves, so they generate electrical activity. My kids call them their electric lights. I tell them if they want energy, they want power, they want to take care of making sure their body has enough electrolytes. So the electrolytes are sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, and bicarbonate. So you can lose these through. This is how our athletes lose them. This is how we lose them. Sweat, diarrhea, vomiting, low fluid or food intake, overtraining without replacing, medical conditions. Okay, so you bulimics out there. The vomiting is a big deal. You're going to lose a lot of hydrochloric chloride, your hydrochloric acid, which helps to break down your food. And I don't mean to say my bulimics out there, but I mean, I deal with people all day long with food issues. You are there. Some of you have been anorexic. Some of you have been bulimic. Some of you have used laxatives to the nth degree. People have done some stuff. No shame, no worries. But know that you're compromising your body and your body's health. So the trace minerals are the ones that you need very little of. But this one, the iron is a big one. So athletes are at a greater risk, and females, than the public. So number one, low caloric intake. If you are a vegetarian, you're also at a higher risk for low iron. The athletes have a high demand for hemoglobin and myoglobin. endurance and impact sports, you get hit a lot. You gotta heal. You gotta heal those bruises. Your blood vessels are getting a lot of activity. You can lose these through sweat, through skin, through your hair, through intestines, and through menstruation. So women, we bleed for like sometimes from the time we're 9 until maybe the time we're 55, once a month. We lose a lot of blood, and a lot of our mineral balance is happening in that blood. And so when our mineral balance gets low, it's going to borrow from the stores of our body. So like calcium, where does it get stored? Bones and teeth. So why are women 4 times more apt to getting osteoporosis than men? Because we bleed once a month, and we don't necessarily know to replenish with extra. So that's huge. So iron absorption factors. I'm going to talk about this again. Anybody who has to leave, I will take no offense. I'm so sorry I didn't get done in an hour with everything I wanted to, but I knew I wouldn't because I knew I wanted to give you way more than I had an hour for. Thank you for coming. If you have to go, there you go. Truly, I'll email you if you give me your email. So iron absorption factors. Oh, you know what? Forget it. I didn't record. I never hit record. I can't give anybody this. Sorry. Yeah, that is a bummer. I totally forgot to hit the record button. So, oh well, love you. So, iron status. Body absorbs at the rate that it's needed. Gastrointestinal function. If altered or malfunctioning, the absorption is going to be compromised. So, heme iron, so flesh, meat iron, is more absorbed than non-heme iron, plant iron. So for the vegans, the non-heme plus your vitamin C is going to be the way to go because the vitamin C is going to help the absorption. Oh, Peter, I love you. Thank you. Peter says he's been recording. I must have never made it so people couldn't record. Thank you. So, nutrient interaction. So I was going to keep going, you know. So low iron absorption can also be compromised by tannins that are found in black teas, coffees, people that like drink oat, anything that has tannins in it, that can compromise iron absorption. Fiber, high fiber can compromise iron absorption. So if you're having way too much fiber and you have no energy and you're feeling like what the heck's going on, soy can compromise. And also it can be compromised by too much zinc, calcium, or manganese. I'm spending a lot of time on iron because I get a lot of people tell me they have low energy. They just feel like they have no power. They feel like the blood just isn't doing it for them. So heme is an iron-containing compound of both hemoglobin and myoglobin. So hemoglobin. This is the protein iron compound in red blood cells that carries oxygen from lungs to cells and tissue. So this is what's carrying the oxygen to your tissue. Like, you ever see people when they look like they're like gray or ashen, and you're like, what is that? And you know, sometimes they smoke cigarettes, or sometimes they're just closer to death or whatever. The oxygen's not getting to that outer tissue. You want to get oxygen to all your tissues. So iron is important for oxygen delivery. Myoglobin is found in muscles and transport oxygen to muscle cells. So if you want to be strong, you want to be powerful, you want to take care of your iron. And I can tell you, like, I had a blood, what do you call it, a leak in my system after a surgery. And so your blood vessel system over here is supposed to be a closed system, but I had a small, something that wasn't healing. And my blood was getting into my system and it wasn't staying in that system. And my hemoglobin went way, 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 way down real quick. By the time I got to the hospital, I felt like a fish out of water. My face was yellow, my lips were blue, and they said, you need a blood transfusion ASAP. And I was like, oh, let's talk about that. They said, we don't have time to talk about that. So it's a big deal. And I did. When I remember saying, I feel like a fish out of water because I couldn't breathe and I didn't understand what was going on, but I wasn't getting oxygen to my tissue. So iron, this is one that the RDA is like different. So the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is double for females over males due to us having menstrual cycles. So a lot of, if you look at the recommended daily intake and requirements, males are gonna, get more because they have more muscle mass, they tend to be larger humans, things like that. But nope, not this one. So it's even higher for vegetarian women or vegetarians because of the non-heme decrease in bioavailability of the iron. So the biggest thing about iron is we're going to think in our mind, okay, transport and utilization of oxygen. So endurance runners, fighters, people that need to have a lot of oxygen delivery quickly. It's also good for immune function, brain development, and energy production. All right, zinc. Zinc is a trace mineral. So 200 plus enzymatic reactions zinc helps with. Wound healing, immune system, RNA and DNA synthesis. So zinc is one of the things that, with the COVID-19, they know that combining zinc and quercetin also helps with activating the proteins in our body that helps to destroy viruses. And not just COVID, but just viruses. So zinc is one of the ingredients in a recipe to help help kill viruses in our body that don't belong. Like zinc's badass. Normal growth and development. We'll find that people that are stunted during certain ages, because there's growth charts for nutritionists and dietitians that will show you where somebody should be at in their growth cycle. And a lot of times people that are not growing at the proper rate, they're low in zinc, or they're having a problem absorbing zinc. Hormone production, protein synthesis, reproductive and gastrointestinal health, brain function. Selenium. Okay, selenium is an antioxidant. It's a thyroid immune function. It's been used for some of the diets that, men are looking to increase their testosterone naturally. Selenium is known for good for boosting that. Healthy development of fetus. And selenium and vitamin E together, in the book it says they work together to quench free radicals. So that takes the vitamin E that is already a super powerful fat soluble antioxidant, and they help to bind to those free radicals that are causing problems to get them out of the body. In specific, exercise-induced free radicals. So chromium. Chromium is a trace mineral, increases the effects of insulin on metabolism. So when they first decided that they were going to do more research on chromium, everybody was touting it as a big weight loss thing or weight management thing because of that, because of its effects on how it's going to help blood lipid regulation, and it increases your insulin sensitivity. And then your immune function. And there's, I have on here the foods, but you guys can research this, where you're going to get these out of foods. Like I said, I'd rather see you get this from foods than supplements, and I'm going to show you in a minute the supplements that I use as a family. And so fluoride. Fluoride, 98% of the body's fluoride is stored in the bones and teeth. So mineralization of bones. It's a trace. You don't need a lot of it. Possible, they're doing research now that, and I tell you this because a lot of you guys break your tendons and your ligaments, especially wrestling or rolling or fighting. Strengthen the interosseous ligaments or tendons for sprains or tendonitis. And all you women that have had babies, you know what happens to your tendons and ligaments after you have babies. You stretch, and then you want those to come back. So having the proper vitamins and minerals to help you have that tenacity and elasticity come back, so you can be tight again and not, have your legs slip out because your hips are still popping because your tendons and ligaments got so stretched. Yeah, we're amazing as humans. Copper. So copper is a trace. Iron metabolism, oxygen metabolism, anemia prevention, antioxidant enzyme function, energy production. A lot of these traits we don't need to get, we just need quality food. Quality food that was grown in good quality soil. So again, we start to notice all these problems as we get more and more deep into new agriculture because our food used to get grown in good quality soil. And now, isn't. So we got to think about that. Yes, I want you to get your stuff in food, but is the food quality? I'm always going to say go for quality over quantity. Organic is going to be the way to go. Non-GMO is going to be the way to go. The less enriched, the better. We'll talk about that in a minute. So manganese is a trace, skeletal growth, protein synthesis, hemoglobin synthesis, metabolism of lipids and carbohydrates, antioxidant function, energy metabolism, and fat synthesis. Manganese absorption can be inhibited by too much iron, calcium, or phosphorus. So iron and calcium supplements, listen to this, are best to take between meals so they don't bind with other nutrients. So if you take an iron or you take a calcium, it's best to take that by themselves so that you don't have the binding happen and then the absorption or malabsorption happen. So iodine, trace. We started in 1920 putting iodine in the salt. Like that was kind of the first, like, hey, is this going to work? Synthesis of hormones secreted by the thyroid gland, specifically T4 and T3, cellular metabolism, organs, and brain, protein synthesis, energy expenditure, weight control, body temperature regulation. The best places to get this are going to be your seafood and your iodized salt, or your iodized sea salt. Again, I'm kind of more of a fan of going the seafood route if you can ingest that and you're not allergic. Molybdenum. So this is a cofactor for 3 enzymes. Antioxidant, it's an antioxidant, detoxifier, and it helps metabolizing sulfur-containing aminos. So increased molybdenum interferes with copper absorption. It's not generally something that you need to take because it's in a lot of plant and soil. But who knows, as our agricultural world changes, we might want to become more aware of what minerals are no longer abundant in our soils. So the major minerals. So we're going to talk about these because they're important. Again, and I probably actually, since Peter is recording and I adore you, Peter, I am going to go back and do the fat soluble vitamins too. So the major minerals are 100 milligrams or more. We got calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, chloride, potassium, and sulfur. Calcium is super important for blood clotting, nerve transmission, muscle contraction, disease prevention, hypertension, and colon cancer, and bone and tooth formation. Ladies, calcium is regulated in the bloodstream. So foods that are high in calcium, research those. Supplements that you feel good about that you could put that have calcium, especially, and I tell you, you might not need them all month long, but those 2 or 3 days that you're bleeding heavy, gotta replace that because your bloodstream is, like, most people are like, I feel shit on my period. Oh, your blood is losing all its energy, right? So those days, replace. And then about 7 days after, replace with blood boosters. Take care of yourself because, you know, the stats are still, women are 4 times more having osteoporosis than men. So they might say you got to take a calcium supplement, but really you need more when you're actively bleeding, and you need more that next week when you're replenishing. You are like an organism that's in flux. All right. Phosphorus, here we go. So formation of bones and teeth, carbohydrate and lipid metabolism, protein synthesis. So you hear all this protein synthesis, you can imagine why if somebody wanted to build a hard, strong body, why a bodybuilder coach would say, you got to make sure you take a multivitamin and multi-mineral. Protein synthesis means growing muscle, growing protein, growing tissue, right? My skin is a tissue. My muscles are a tissue. Bone health, calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and now, this is another thing, now they realize you need K2. So what do they realize after all the years? They told me to take calcium plus vitamin D. I said, do that. And so we did. And then they realized, oh, we also need vitamin K2 in there too, because that promotes the ossification to the bones instead of promoting it in the blood vessels. So we've all heard of arteriosclerosis. Did we maybe help that along by leaving out the K2 part? Maybe, maybe not. But now they're like, well, definitely this is the pathway. And so again, best of intentions. They knew a little bit, but they didn't know it all. Magnesium, enzymatic reactions, bone health, blood clotting, blood pressure, protein synthesis, and carbohydrate metabolism. Sodium, blood pressure, nerve impulse transmission, muscle contraction. Increased intake increases blood pressure. So again, I had a client, she had POTS, and she had to have like 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day just to keep her blood pressure up. Insane, right? Because it's a disruption of a lot of things, but your blood pressure too. But one of the first things people come to me and they have hypertension or they have high blood pressure, we're going to take it to a lower sodium diet. Now here's a question for you, for those of you who like to think. So the RDA is actually like, what's adequate is 500 milligrams a day. 500 milligrams. But the DRI used to be 2,400 milligrams. It's a lot. It's a big differential. If we only need 500, why would we give us 2,400 milligrams? Just think about this for a minute. I have an opinion that I'm going to give you in a minute. Now they took it from 2,400 milligrams and they've decided on 1,500 milligrams is satisfactory to give people. The 500 is all we need. You know how hard it would be to eat all of our processed foods, any of our processed foods, if the recommendation was 500 milligrams? It'd be very hard to eat a processed food diet because I was looking at like a wrap there's like a gluten-free wrap, 420 milligrams of sodium, right? One serving of canned chicken, 200 milligrams of sodium. How if you only got 500 milligrams, that would cut back on a lot of the processed foods. So here's what I'm telling you. Cut back on a lot of the processed foods. Just do it. The FDA does control a lot of that. So 500 milligrams a day is what is actually required to proper food function. Sodium. Now, if you sweat more, there's factors that can cause it so that you might want more, or need more. But that is like an average human that's not sweating, not doing stuff all day. Chloride, hydrochloric acid, helps kill bacteria that's been consumed in the gut. So say you have a piece of fish that has some bacteria on it, our stomach's supposed to take care of that by killing it off with the acid before it gets into the major part of our digestive system and grows. So electrolyte, it's also an electrolyte. And we gotta be careful, the bulimics especially need to be careful of this because of low levels, because they're vomiting up their hydrochloric acid, which is inhibiting their digestion. So here we go, potassium, blood pressure regulation, nerve impulses, muscle contractions, electrolytes, sodium too low and potassium too high will increase blood pressure. And straight up potassium is one of those that you're not going to find. A lot of people don't need potassium. Too much potassium, you start to have heart problems and it could result in a heart attack. So this is one that's very dangerous for you competitors that do figure competitions or pro competitions or bodybuilder competitions, and somebody wants to diurese you and deplete all of your water through sodium manipulation, because this could be a big problem. So you got to be careful. Don't just trust anybody to be your coach, because they might not give a shit about what happens to your organs. They might, but they might not. So sulfur. No established RDA because it's in so many things. It's in food, it's in water, and you can get it from your amino acids from your body. So again, there's no RDA on this, so we don't even know. But it does hundreds of reactions in the body is what it helps with, and it's associated with growth and development issues. So again, I am going to go back because Peter so graciously told me that he is taking, because I do care about these other vitamins. I knew that this was going to go over an hour because it was too much information, but those of you that know me know I care. So we're just going to go back real quick and talk about B12. So I stopped at the last B vitamin that is actually considered a vitamin. And B12 is huge. So B12 is good for absorption. What can inhibit B12 absorption is acid reflux meds, proton pump inhibitors. Those are the specific meds that can make it so that you're not absorbing B12. Pernicious anemia. B12 is only in meat, eggs, poultry, and dairy. Vegetarians are at increased risk of malabsorption. Weight loss surgery, celiac, and Crohn's can cause a problem. So again, B12 levels checked. And again, because of my celiac, that's when I realized that, like, oh, I have a problem. But I didn't know I was celiac until I was 30. And I was eating pasta and drumsticks my whole life. Until I was about dead. So B12, methylcobalamin. So these are the things that B12 does. Health and performance of your nervous system, cardiovascular health, growth and development of tissue, energy production, maintains integrity of the myelin sheath, protective coating surrounding the nerve fibers, critical for folate metabolism, prevents pernicious anemia, facilitates energy production, and cardiovascular health. Impaired absorption with decreased intake. So you want to make sure you take care of that. Choline was the vitamin like. It's not a true vitamin, but it is one that is super important for the formation of neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which is important for muscle activation. So choline's on the sites for athletes or people that want more energy because it can help with prevention of muscle fatigue and muscle failure. And it's also huge for the muscle and structural integrity of your cell membranes, including the cell membranes in your brain. So huge. Now, those are all water soluble. So the C, the B's, the choline are water soluble. Fat soluble. These are the ones that we be careful about because they can build up in the body and cause toxicity. Now, why do we care about them? Because we need them for proper development, proper human growth and development. So vitamin A is the one that you're going to know that it's all about vision, stem cell division, tissue building, bone formation, skin and mucous membranes. You know, people that are always like, oh, the mucous membranes are just so dry, and you know, they just feel like something doesn't quite work. Injury repair. It's labeled the anti-infection vitamin, and it's an antioxidant. So the anti-infection vitamin, let's talk about that. So one of the things in the Bioenergy Medical Center where I go, when Dr. D says you first feel like you might have a flu coming on, whether it's a virus or flu or COVID, if you feel like something's going wrong, the first thing you're going to do is increase your vitamin A. Well, that's part of it. It's an anti-infection vitamin, so it helps to start combat and get those free radicals picked up. So again, it's not like the end-all cure for a flu, but it helps to empower your system so that as a virus is taking over the host and gaining momentum, your body is saying, oh shit, I'm going to put a little bigger army right now. I'm going to break out some guns right now, right? So if you know you can do something, if you know you can increase your vitamin A, if you know you can increase your vitamin D, if you know you can increase your zinc to upregulate your own immune system, don't just sit on your ass. Upregulate your immune system, right? There are things you can do. That's what we focus on. Vitamin D. All right, vitamin D can be obtained through sunlight only. Gets more sunshine. Controls calcium levels. It is a hormone as well. We're learning more about that as we go. They didn't know that for a while. So now here we are, new information. Bone health, immune function, muscle function. It controls inflammation, and this is the one currently that the RDA is investigating that our doses are too low, and they're considering like over doubling the dose. That's a pretty big jump, right? Here's what we thought, but maybe this will be better. Now, tell me this. If we're enriching so many, all of our milk, and we're enriching all of our products and all these things with all of this, or fortifying with vitamin D, how come we're also low on vitamin D? Is the fortification process working in the majority of humans? We don't really know. It's kind of a big study. It's a lot of people on the planet to study. So that's vitamin A, that's vitamin D. Vitamin E, the major antioxidant, the major fat-soluble antioxidant. I'm going to say it again. Athletes, you heard me say post-workout, when your blood is still pumping, with all of that energy still going, 500 milligrams of vitamin C, 400 international units of vitamin E, to help clean up the oxidative stress from your metabolic byproduct, simply just from your body metabolizing. Metabolizing is just a whole bunch of chemical reactions happening. Some of them are great, some of them need to be cleaned up. Cleaned up ones are the oxidative stress, causing your body undue stress. So it's known as the anti-aging vitamins. I don't take it every day. I take it just after I work out. It's enough. So vitamin K. Vitamin K, the cool thing about vitamin K is most of them were named like as they found them, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, blah, blah. But K, they named it vitamin K because of the coagulation factor. Some guy, his last name was like Coagulates, or, I have it written down. It's in that book too, but that's why it got named vitamin K. So huge for blood clotting, huge for bone health, mineralization of bone with calcium. So it's a good density builder. So that was the majority of the vitamins, minerals I wanted. That's all I wanted to get to really. But then I wanted to show you some quality vitamins that I use for my family. Just real quick. Nothing big. So there are three. So these are the three that we use in my house. Pure encapsulation, athletic nutrients. Now at my house, we all have to have the ones that have the folate and the L5-MTHF. So it's folate. It's not going to say folic acid because we all have the issue with the B vitamins, me and my kids. So I nipped it in the bud because I was not going to send them down the pathway of hell that I went through, that they'd be fine until they're 30 and then they're going to break down. Hell with that. So my kids are on vitamins because why? We have an actual health reason to be on. Mitochore. This one is an amazing, amazing vitamin that also has all of your base vitamins and minerals in it, and some other stuff, other supplements. So not all supplements are micronutrients. The micronutrients are the ones that are vital to your life. Remember that. Not all supplements are a micronutrient. The ones that are considered micronutrients have to be vital to your life and growth and development. But this is a really good one. This is the one that focuses specifically on optimal mitochondria production. And then this is the one that is my personal fave, okay? So Spectrum Needs by Neuro Needs. So again, number one, enhances methylation. That MTHFR issue, that genetic problem, has everything to do with methylation. You can look that up, or I can send you a link if you email me and ask me about what I would read if I were you. And it has antioxidant support. You can see that on there. It removes harmful metabolites, promotes mitochondrial metabolism, and facilitates selective neurotransmission. So yes, it was made for people on the autistic spectrum. People on the autistic spectrum many times have compromised cellular activity going on and need some extra support. So I'm one of those people that need extracellular support. It helps with my neurotransmission. It helps with my cells. It helps with my energy. I like this. I have no qualms about who it was made for. People with compromised digestion. And then I put on my Facebook page a supplement by Thorne, 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 and it's a multivitamin elite AM and PM. That one is NSF approved. So that's one that one of the athletes that I sponsor, I send out to him for his needs, because he's terrified to take anything that doesn't have that stamp. So at this point, if anybody has any questions, I'm open. Anybody? I'm gonna see if I have a gallery view. I don't even know who's left. Okay. Oh gosh, thank you all for staying, whoever stayed. I love you. All right. So yeah, if there's no questions, I love you all. And I probably will do the next one on macronutrients. Well, can we get this video afterwards? I didn't record it, Anna. I thought that I was going to record it. I think Peter recorded it, and if I can figure out how to get the video from him, and if you send me your email, I will try my best to get it to you. So I got excited at the beginning, and I forgot to record. All right, wait a minute. I saw something. Please leave meeting. What does that say? Please leave meeting open a few moments so I can download the attachments AJ uploaded. Oh, AJ and Peter, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to leave it open. So did anybody learn anything? Did anybody feel like this was helpful? Thank you. Thank you. Good. Yeah. Good. Good. And what I did on vitamins and minerals really was a request of one of the people that attended for most of it. And I get a lot of people that don't believe in them. And I think before you don't believe in something, you should actually know that there's a little, since 1940, we've been trying to figure out, how to get more of the good stuff in our body. You're welcome. So Peter, you just let me know when I'm good to go. Hi, Elizabeth. Oh, Lee.
Thanks, Mary. It was great.
Oh, thank you.
Lee watched most of it with me, and it was really awesome. So yay. Yeah, thank you.
Good. It's hard to make these things if you want it, and I'll send it. Thank you all. Thank you, Peter. All right. I'm going to end this.